Here's some rumbles of thunder here in the French Quarter. We'll take a look at radar in just a moment. I want to start, though, out in the tropics with Hurricane Franklin, which became our first major hurricane. Impressive to watch, kind of what a textbook example of a major hurricane is. Perfectly symmetrical, well-formed eye, and it's also a little bit more interesting to look at when you know it is not directly going to impact anyone. Obviously, higher surf here is Florida, the Bahamas, and then Bermuda is off to the north and east, and it looks like this is going to thread the needle between the East Coast and Bermuda. So good news for both of those areas. Where we're also threading the needle in the Yucatan Channel will be Idalia, which at the moment is still sitting just south of the channel, so it is in the Caribbean, not quite into the Gulf just yet, but as a strong tropical storm. And the expectation is, with that convection that keeps developing right near the center, we will see this continue to organize and likely continue to intensify right up to the point of landfall. What I'm also showing you is the wind field radius. So just to kind of give you a more broad idea of the impacted areas, sometimes the cone and the center line can be somewhat misleading. So we show you the winds to see how much of the area will experience at least tropical storm force winds. That may start to move up toward Clearwater and Tampa. This is as of Tuesday evening, so late Tuesday, early Wednesday, may start to feel those winds picking up in central South Florida. Then as we head toward early Wednesday morning into midday Wednesday is when we could easily see this making landfall as a Category 3 right along the Big Bend. Now this is kind of when that center line comes into play, because if the center of the storm does make landfall in the Big Bend area, that would at least be some positive news, because this part of Florida is very, very less populated than other parts of the Florida coast. This is primarily marsh, so there aren't too many communities that would likely feel the brunt of those winds. Obviously strong winds across much of the state, certainly heavy rainfall, the surf, but the worst of the winds may be avoided by some of the larger communities. Then continuing out past the Carolinas and then eventually into the Atlantic, which some models kind of all over the place with exactly what the remnants of that system do. We can kind of talk about that later on. What's happening at the moment is actually some pretty strong wind shear, and there's also abundant dry air. Now that wind shear will start to subside and lift up to the north as the storm moves north as well. So there really won't be much wind shear to hinder any further organization. And as far as that dry air goes, well, it looks like it's got a fairly healthy pocket of moisture surrounding that center, that the dry air is not going to play a huge role in up to the landfall point. As it continues through Georgia and maybe towards South Carolina, that drier air should also help to weaken it, along with the interaction of land. For our forecast, how will Idalia help us? Well, we've got a front that is basically sitting right on top of us now. That will start being forced southward and actually enhanced because of the flow around Idalia. That should help to really bring in some drier air as we head into Wednesday and Thursday. The drier air not too far up to our north and west. That should start moving in, probably not right behind the weak front Tuesday, but I think more so into Wednesday, we will start to feel that drier air, and temperatures over the next several days will be still hot, but near normal. So this is more seasonal type heat. And with these disturbances, we should also bring in better rain chances, especially tomorrow. Then it does look like we tap back into rain chances toward the early Friday and early part of the weekend. Updating radar right now, we have been fairly active on the North Shore and in Mississippi with some heavy downpours at times, including, as I said, we could hear the rumbles of thunder in the French Quarter. We're getting some thunderstorms in the metro area, much needed rain for many of us. Temperatures outside, because of more cloud cover and rainfall, have been kept in check. We've been in the upper 70s where we've had the rainfall, otherwise 80s and low 90s. Looks like we were able to sneak up to 93 degrees, which was a little above when the climate data came out. So a little above normal today. We'll be probably at or right below normal tomorrow with more rainfall. Then that less humid air moves in for Wednesday and Thursday. Still hot, don't get me wrong, but after a stretch in the hundreds, the lower 90s ought to feel almost cool.